Hey y'all, welcome back. My name is Crystal, and I've got another book chat video today. So I thought I would come back and make some more lists of some of my faves. I've done a few so far. I got a favorite horrors. I've got some of my favorite weird books, and I've got, of course, my top 10 favorite books of all time video that I put together as well. And so I thought let's make a few more of the different genres that I like to read, because I like to mix it up. I like to read all sorts of stuff. So excuse me. I thought today that I would go ahead and start with my favorite dystopian stories. So dystopian, post-apocalyptic type stories. I really enjoy that that sort of subgenre. Some people will classify it as sci-fi in general. I like to keep them separate because I feel like it's like a different vibe from a dystopian story than like general science fiction. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but yeah, I'm gonna we'll go with that. So let's just get going. I've already rambled too much. Just a sort of caveat. Any books that were mentioned in my top 10 favorite books of all time list will not be on any of these like separate lists, just so you know, because they're like a step above, you know what I mean? But these are also favorites, of course. So Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse is one I loved. I loved when I read this. I really need to do reread so I can continue with the series, of course, but I'm not very good at finishing series. But this is what event has occurred in here is basically the world has essentially flooded, sort of a climate apocalypse, and so the setting is essentially what was the Navajo reservation, but they don't call themselves that anymore. Like here on the back it says they are the Dineta, I think that's how you pronounce it, formerly the Navajo reservation. So this is kind of where we pick up. So we're in a desert type setting, right? And we've got this chick right here, and her name is Maggie. She is also a monster hunter. Yeah. So this has a lot of sort of lore, and legend of the Navajo culture that kind of comes to life in this. So this also could go on like a fantasy list, but I get more of a dystopian vibe from this just because of the nature of like what's going on. You know what I mean? The world has ended, kind of thing. You've got these little pockets of civilization that are just trying to make do. There's people taking advantage of other people. I mean, all of that kind of stuff that always goes along with these types of story. Lots of violence, that kind of thing. But then again, we just also get this extra sort of layer with following Maggie and this as this monster hunter and what that means for her and things like that. So I just really love this one. If you've not read this yet, you have got to do yourself a favor and see what Maggie gets herself into. And yes, and Rebecca Roanhorse is just amazing. So next up, of course, is the Passage series. Really, this whole series is a trilogy. But the first book is The Passage, and these are by Justin Cronin. And they're thick stories. They're big, but but for me they just flew right by. I really enjoyed this whole trilogy. Okay, so what has gone on in this world? Well, this is a sort of like a virus story, essentially. Something was set loose in the world, and it affects people in a way that in some sort of way, right? should I say? I'm gonna say the virus turns people into essentially like a vampire. It's not a vampire like a typical vampire, but vampiric sort of people. I'll say that. And in this beginning story, we're following a little girl who is kind of wrapped up in this experiment that's been going on, and there's, her name is Amy, and they've been sent out to track her down and to bring her in and that kind of thing, and to try to help sort of fix their problem. You know what I mean? Government. What are you gonna do? And so yeah, there's that bit of story, and there is also a time jump in this story, which I didn't know. I didn't expect it at all, but it picks up like 100 years later, and we kind of see where humanity is. Again, these just a sort of small pockets of people that are left that haven't been turned into these viral, vampires. And so you get a bit of this back and forth of what things were like before, what was going on, and then what's happening in the future. The future for us, how are we surviving? How's humanity? How are we making it through? That kind of thing. And yeah, I don't know. This one just hooked me. I just really loved it, and it's like I said, it's long, but I never really got bored. I never thought anything was like, okay, let's wrap this section up because it's too much. No, never. It was nonstop action, lots of build up to the story, and then you get 2 more books to really sort of wrap it up for you. And this whole trilogy is amazing. So definitely one of my favorites, and I would absolutely doing a reread that series. Probably in a few years or so, get to it. I don't have this as a physical book. I need to get a copy for myself though. But that's Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. This is a quiet story in a way. And I don't remember what happened in this world, but something has happened apocalyptic, right? And there are again little pockets of humanity here. This is set in the US, and we primarily follow this sort of ragtag group of folks that travel from around to these little settlements and perform like Shakespeare plays and sing songs and things like that to bring just to bring a little bit of joy and happiness to these people. And it seems like, come on, what kind of story is this, right? It seems like maybe, I don't know, this isn't gonna work, but it totally does. You're in it, you're invested, and you want to know, of course, what has happened. We go flashbacks, we go forward and backwards through time, through these stories of several different characters, and so that I love stories that do that. I love multiple timelines and going backwards and forwards and solving this puzzle kind of as you go, So you have that, and that's in this story, which I appreciate, and yeah, but there is little pockets of joy. A lot of dystopians are just like brutal and dark and hard, right? But there are some definitely light moments in this that it just worked. Now there are some violent scenes and things like that in here. Don't get me wrong, it's not all like happy hooray stuff, but it's just written so well and with so much care as to to the characters and to the story that she's trying to tell. I don't know if that makes sense, but but again, it's done in a very quiet way, and it's really lovely. So yeah, that was definitely on the list. And you guys know this one's going to be on the list. Census by Jessie Ball. This is a more recent read for me. I read that this year, a few months ago. This is also a really quiet story, and in this world we don't really ever know what happens. We don't know why the world is what it is right now. But we follow an older gentleman who he knows he's about to die. And so he signs up to be a census taker. And he sets off with his son, who was also in his 20s or so, and who just happens to have Down syndrome. And they go off to take the census in this world, right? It feels like America, right? But the world is set up like alphabetically. So like people that live in A seem to be the sort of the center, or whatever, the hub of the government, and where probably the most people settle. But then you go B, C, up all the way out to Z, and then it gets more spread out and rural, and people a little more skeptical and unsure of the government and that kind of thing. And that's how each chapter is actually like. So when he enters Zone H, that's the chapter of him, what he experiences in Zone H. And so we follow, this man and his son as they are traveling through here, giving the census to people, and the people that they meet along the way, essentially. Now, the census itself, it seems it's not really explained much either. So if you don't like stuff that's not really explained, this probably isn't the story for you. But if you don't mind a little bit of ambiguity, give it a go. But the census is what we think of as a census. In some ways, it's like, what's your name? Kind of how many people live in this house, all that kind of things. But then there's also a sort of branding that's involved as well, to the people. So it's a little sinister. There's definitely a darkness sort of underneath the layer of this story, which I really appreciated. So I loved this story so much. And again, I loved, of course, the representation of a character with Down syndrome and being the parent of someone with Down syndrome. I thought was done really well, of course, and I love this book. So it's definitely a favorite. Dystopian, but again, it's a quiet sort of story, quiet dystopian. It's like we know something's different. Like it's not America as it should be, but something has happened. We don't know what it is, but something's off. You know what I mean? So I liked that. I loved everything about that book. You guys know. Another one that I really enjoyed is The Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey. Now this is a sort of different sort of spin on a zombie story. I personally love a zombie story. For some reason zombies get a bad rap, but I love a zombie story. And I especially love a zombie story that's done a little bit differently. So in this case, it's not a virus or anything like that. It's something else. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but so something has turned most of people into zombies, that whole thing. And we've got basically this kind of government facility that they're trying to eventually sort of find a cure, or like, what can we do here? Try to get rid of this thing, right? And but they're experimenting on. It's not necessarily on the up and up, we'll say. But there is this little girl who maybe is the key. Maybe she's the key. And but things happen, and she is on the run. And there's this chasing dynamic, of course, where she's with a group of people that have gone on the run, and there's people trying to find her. There's like these roaming bands of like outlaws, and then of course these sort of zombies themselves. It's good, y'all. It's really good. And like I said, it's got a little twist on this story that just makes it super interesting. Again, the character works very well, and yeah, it's just a good one. It's a good one. So, Girl with All the Gifts, really recommend that one too. And I've got one more here, and I'm going to talk about another more recent read, is Wool by Hugh Howey. man, I have loved this series. I'm in the middle, right as of filming. I'm sort of halfway through the third book. But this first one in particular is good. It's good, y'all. Now this sort of, okay, I won't say too much, but basically the world outside is inhabitable. The air is toxic. We can't, it's another sort of climate sort of disaster, right? We can't live outside anymore. And so there is a silo that was built underneath the ground, and that's where sort of the remnants of humanity are living now. And it goes way down deep. There's like over 100 floors, that kind of thing. And we've just created a new way to live, a new way of life, and learned how to, farm and get food, keep power, all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's in here, and man, this is really good. It's very interesting. The characters are amazing. You're really invested. You just are hooked. You're hooked right away. And as we learn more about what has gone on in this world, like why are we here, and it's like, whoa, it's a lot. It's so good, you guys. And so if you haven't gotten into this one yet, definitely recommend. I've just recently read it, so it's so good, and I know it's being adapted into a series, and I'm excited to see how they do it. Because I can visualize the way the silo in my mind of what I think it looks like, right? But I'm curious how they'll make it look. So yeah, these are some of my top dystopian books. There's probably a few more out there, but yeah, I recommend all of these. They're all fantastic. But I'm always, on the lookout for more, so I'd love to hear what are some of your favorites. Let me know so I can add them to my list. And give me some zombie books. I love zombie books. So, alright, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks so much, as always, for watching. I always appreciate it. And we'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.